Hey guys, welcome back. We have a about half hour banger today, as they say. If you're new here to the channel, we just watch conspiracy clips, odd end clips, you know, basically anything that kind of makes you think, you know. I'm Legion. I want to thank you. I am not going to ask you to like and subscribe before you see it. Please wait to the end of the video to do so. And if you like what you see and what I'm bringing to the table, then please like and subscribe. And hype it if you can too. That'd be awesome. Without further ado.
What if someone warned us about artificial intelligence decades before ChatGPT existed? And what if his prediction was more disturbing than we expected? In the 1960s, computer scientist I.J. Good imagined something called an intelligence explosion. His idea was simple. One day, humans could create a machine smarter than themselves, and that machine could build an even smarter machine. Then, the process could repeat. Smarter machine. Then, an even smarter one. And suddenly, the gap between human intelligence and machine intelligence could become enormous. Good wasn't describing ChatGPT. He was thinking about a future where machines could potentially improve themselves. Today, AI systems can write, create images, generate videos, analyze information, and solve problems that once required highly specialized humans. But here's the interesting part. The biggest question isn't whether AI will become smarter. It's whether humans will remain in control as it does. Because the future of AI may not be decided by the machines. It may be decided by the people who build them and the rules we create before they're too powerful to change. And that's why a prediction from the 1960s suddenly feels much less like science fiction.
God. Isn't it so true though? Isn't it? Isn't that the way the world is going right now? With the hyper explosion of AI, and I mean every time you turn on the TV or the news or whatever, you're always seeing, oh well, another data center. Oh well, we're now on version 45 instead of 42. It's just expanding so fast. I mean, God, it was just like ChatGPT was a thing. Nobody freaking knew about it.
Mr. Beast ice.
And hello, Sheriff, come on. Sorry about that. That was Sheriff. He likes to jump up and say hi every now and then. I'm sorry. But as I was saying, ChatGPT was just like an app that just came out that was something that could help you look up something. And now it's the cornerstone of everything. Crazy.
Wall. I want to talk about.
What is that? Ice wall?
You didn't see it was on the same stream.
No, fam.
Ice
So they were on the stream with
Talk
XQC
about
and
it.
Aiden Ross. Mr. Beast was asked, "Yo, you been to Antarctica, right?" He goes, "Yeah." "Have you seen the ice wall?"
Yeah.
And then he goes, yeah, I've seen it.
Been to Antarctica? Yeah. You believe in the ice wall?
But I can't talk about it." And XQC goes like, "Yeah, you seen it.
Oh.
I seen it too.
XQC?
XQC seen it too."
Saw the ice wall. There's.
Yeah, he saw.
Oh my god.
But yo, that guy's like more
Yeah, I know.
super rich too.
Yeah.
But whatever he saw, he said, "I can't talk about it on the street."
Also, I can't say on stream. No way. Damn.
So what are they hiding in
Yeah,
Antarctica?
I know.
The ice wall theory
Yeah.
is probably real. What's beyond those walls, though?
So here we're finding.
You know, just real quick, these creators that have the sponsorships and all that, that's why I don't want them. I would rather be independent, have you guys help out you guys, help fund the channel, and I do what you guys like. I bring the clips you like, the types of clips you like. I don't want to be held to a company or not be able to say something or not be able to go somewhere because of a sponsorship. No, sorry. That's too controlling. I'd rather be able to do what I like and say what I like instead of being held back because of a sponsorship or because somebody has money held over my head. Sorry, no.
5 more conspiracy theories that turned out to be true. Number 5, the CIA is secretly reading the private messages of over 100 governments and effectively has backdoor access into anything encryption or password protected. So back in 1970, the CIA and West German intelligence quietly bought a little Swiss company called Crypto AG. This company sold encryption machines that governments all over the world would buy to use to scramble their internal messages so that no one could ever know what they're talking about, except the US military, because the CIA secretly owned the company. They rigged every single one of these encryption machines, and 120 of the world's governments would buy these machines for a lot of money, because in the zeitgeist of the Cold War, it really seemed like the only way to communicate without being spied on at all. They tuned into Iran during the hostage crisis, they fed the UK all of Argentina's war plans during the Falklands, and they caught Libya celebrating a bombing in Berlin. This went on for 50 years, and we only found out because someone leaked it. Number 4, the US Navy sprayed live bacteria all over the city of San Francisco. Yeah, they just did that. So a Navy ship sat a couple miles offshore and spent about a week spraying huge clouds of bacteria into the fog. They were doing it because they ostensibly wanted to find out how a biological attack would spread through a major American city. And they did not tell a single resident they were doing it. Over 800,000 people inhaled this patriotic smog, and a few days later, 11 people showed up at a local hospital with a rare infection almost no one had ever seen before. In fact, one of them, a man named Edward Nevin, died, and his family had to grieve all over again when decades later they found out and sued, because the truth just came out in a Senate hearing in 1977. This excursion was called Operation Sea Spray, and the US Navy also admitted that it wasn't a one-off because they'd done it 239 other times, including releasing bacteria into the New York subway. Number 3, the cult dressed like a church of Scientology, planting thousands of its own members inside the US government. And so in the 1970s, the Church of Scientology decided it was going to get rid of every embarrassing government file about them and their weird founder. They got their people hired into real jobs across 136 different government agencies, including the IRS, the Justice Department, and the FBI, the big dogs. And of course, they even asked those members to just steal and shred documents from the inside, which was probably regular practice in all of those buildings. At its peak, they had up to 5,000 secret agents planted across the government, and it's in every definition of the word the biggest infiltration of the US government in history. And they were firmly in there until 1977, which it then did fall apart because that's when the FBI raided and found all the stolen documents. Number 2, the US government deliberately lacing all the alcohol with poison so that they could kill their own people. Dick move. So during Prohibition, the US government had a problem. People were just still drinking anyway. Most of the alcohol being drunk was industrial alcohol, the sort of stuff that bootleggers would steal and clean up and fix up in the toilet, nasty stuff that kind of tastes like poison. Their solution was to make the industrial alcohol as lethal as they possibly could. They ordered it laced with methanol, benzene, even mercury. It didn't matter to them because they knew people were still going to drink it. By 1926, the bodies were starting to stack up. In New York only, they had already logged 741 poison alcohol deaths. And you'd think they'd back off at that point. Ooh, we're doing a bad thing. They doubled down. And I mean literally, they doubled the amount of poison. And so just over a Christmas holiday in New York, dozens of people were dropping dead. New York's own chief medical examiner called it a national experiment in extermination. By the time Prohibition ended, that poison had killed an estimated 10,000 American citizens. And the government's official stance was quite literally, well, if they're drinking, then they're just committing suicide anyway. I'm not joking. Number 1, the US government is secretly stealing the bodies of dead babies. So quickly, before I talk about it, if you like weird, up, sad, scary shit like this, then you're great, and I would like you to follow me, please, because it makes me happy. Thanks. So in the 1950s, America was setting off a whole bunch of nuclear bombs, just whenever, but they were secretly very panicked about nuclear fallout. And they were especially worried about a radioactive material called strontium-90. The problem with strontium-90 is, on top of being very radioactive and deadly, the human body naturally pulls it into the bones as if it was calcium. And the types of bones that absorbed it fastest happened to belong to babies. So to measure how bad it was getting, the Atomic Energy Commission started collecting dead bodies of babies to test the bones. And they managed to collect over 1,500 dead babies from around the world. Did they at least inform the grieving parents? No way! Everyone admitted fallout was dangerous eventually. The actual conspiracy that seems really unnecessary is that in order to prove that radioactivity was dangerous, the government went out of their way to quietly harvest dead children. That's where it crossed the line. They did try to stop a nuclear bomb with the dead baby. But what do you think?
Dude, I didn't know they poisoned the alcohol. Wow. And the dead baby thing? I don't understand why the government just doesn't say it. I think it'd probably get a little bit of backlash, but probably not as much as them not telling them, you know? Jesus Christ. Government's jacked up. For entertainment purposes only.
So this one will make you think. An FBI agent writes anonymous letter warning Americans. So as thousands of FBI employees brace for possible political retribution, one special agent penned an anonymous open letter circulating across the Bureau in defense of colleagues who took part in the sprawling January 6th Capitol riot investigation. And this is what it says. It's titled, "Uncommon Sense Was a Common Vice." Those with knowledge of the United States Marine Corps will recognize the irony of this title. I wish its words were not true, but as I write this, I believe they are. Currently, there is an effort to cull a significant number of career special agents from the Federal Bureau of Investigation. This is an unthinkable action that will gravely undermine the security of the nation, well beyond what many of our citizens are aware. For those seeking to raise their awareness, I offer this vignette free of political bias or moral judgment. It is not about any one person, but an amalgamation of multiple FBI special agents. He goes on to say, "I am the coach of your child's soccer team. I sit next to you on occasion in religious devotion. I am a member of the PTA. With friends, you celebrated my birthday. I collected your mail and took out your trash while you were away from home. I played a round of golf with you. I'm a veteran. I'm the average neighbor in your community. This is who you see and know. However, there's a part of my life that is a mystery to you and prompts a natural..."
You guys are not realizing how significant this is. Heaven is literally right above us.
You don't realize how significantly messed up this video looks. Damn.
There's Earth, which is flat. No, it is. And then there's a dome. I don't know if it's made out of ice or glass yet, but there's some kind of dome.
Okay.
And then heaven is literally right above us. You know the Milky Way? That's actually the Great Rift. There's like a tear in the sky. And all that light coming through, that's light from heaven.
Okay.
Spiritual secrets about the birthday song.
Don't mess this up.
Birthdays are actually rituals against us. Have you ever wondered where the happy birthday song originated from, or why we sing it? Do you not find it strange that whenever it's time to sing happy birthday to someone, candles are lit, lights are turned off, and we gather in a circle to chant, similar to that of witches' rituals? Well, there is a theory that suggests that the happy birthday song was created as a curse by fallen angels to hide a ritual that seals your fate to grow older. As many of us know, and it is very well documented, that humans used to live much longer than we do now, And this theory suggests that every time we sing this chant, blow out candles, and make a wish on our birthdays, we are actually locking ourselves into aging more. Some believe this to be a form of population control, as the faster we grow old, the faster we die, which would help the growth rate stay steady rather than be on a high incline. Of course, this is just a theory and doesn't account for the millions of people who don't celebrate their birthdays like this. But it does make you wonder why there are some religions and practices that are completely against celebrating birthdays.
I can see that.
The video you are about to see is for informational purposes only and is not intended to offend anyone. One theory suggests that interdimensional reptilian beings control our planet, occupying the highest echelons of society and camouflaging themselves as humans. What we will see is material that may show evidence of these beings, captured on camera long before the advent of artificial intelligence. Please observe and draw your own conclusions. We may be facing the most compelling evidence of shape-shifting reptilians.
That meant the CIA could still recruit reporters to shape the news, as long as they felt it was justified. It's a disturbing reality, especially because the news could be lying to you right now. Our next chapter is about a poison that every single American was breathing and almost no one knew. The Ethel Conspiracy. In the 1950s, a scientist made a disturbing discovery. The average American had massive amounts of lead inside their body. Some people thought it was normal, but the scientist felt something far more dangerous was happening. He believed giant corporations were knowingly polluting air with toxic lead. But when he tried warning the public, those billion-dollar companies tried to ruin his life. The story began in the 1920s. Car companies discovered that adding lead to gasoline made engines run smoother. They called the new leaded gas ethyl. Car owners loved it. Selling ethyl was incredibly profitable, but there was a serious problem. Lead was toxic. In fact, lead was so toxic that workers in the leaded gas factories suffered hallucinations. Some even passed away from lead poisoning. Lead particles could spread through the air. Simply breathing too much could make people very sick. But the companies did not want to stop producing leaded gasoline. The business was making far too much money, so they refused to accept that lead was poisoning workers.
They knew that it was harmful. They tried to say that that didn't matter. They tried to blame the workers who got sick in their factories.
There was an even bigger issue. Cars using leaded gasoline released fumes that contained the lead. Those fumes dissolved into the air, and anyone who breathed that air also breathed in tiny amounts of lead. The car companies knew this could scare the public, so they tried to control the narrative. They wanted Americans to believe lead was safe. To do that, they hired scientists to defend lead. These scientists told the public that lead was naturally found inside the human body. They claimed that this proved it was safe. Most Americans believed it, and because because of that, millions of people inhaled leaded gasoline fumes every single day without realizing the danger. But one scientist was about to uncover the truth. In the 1950s, Claire Patterson was a geochemist at the California Institute of Technology. He was trying to calculate the exact age of the Earth by studying ancient rocks. But he kept running into a strange problem. Every sample he tested was contaminated with lead. There was lead in the air, lead in the dust, lead in the rocks, lead everywhere. The contamination was impossible to ignore. Where was all this lead coming from? Then Patterson made another discovery. Americans had 100 times more lead in their blood than ancient humans. Somehow this toxic chemical was almost everywhere in America. Patterson decided to go public. In 1965, he published a scientific paper explaining his findings. He made one thing very clear. Lead was dangerous to humans, and they needed to do everything to reduce lead contamination. The companies making billions from lead didn't like that. He was ruining their business. So they went after Patterson personally. First, they tried to destroy his career.
Eventually, a VP of an oil company who's a trustee at Caltech calls the president and asks for him to be fired.
Patterson's research funding was cut off. He was blocked from government meetings where environmental decisions were made. Patterson was smeared in the media. They painted him as a conspiracy theorist spreading science fiction. At the same
So I'm driving down the road and
Dude.
Morgan Wallen comes.
Dude. I guess that's why it's now unleaded fuel. Spitballing here. That's effed up. Why is it always either money or the guy that's trying to prove the big wig wrong always smeared and just fired and I don't know. Just, it's always the same thing over and over and over again. Somebody finds out a company is doing wrong, they go to say something, and then that person either gets taken care of or is just labeled a crackpot. I just don't get it. I don't get it.
Comes on. Morgan Wallen, who I've done several videos on showing how he used to be Dale Earnhardt. Nice butt chin. Nice butt chin. Dale Earnhardt, who died when he hit a wall. Morgan Wallen. Dale Earnhardt, who shares exact symmetrical features and the exact mustache and nose, and even the exact major gouge on his face, right under his right eye. Right here and right here. And now that the rest of you are caught up, let's go back to my car ride. As I was saying, I was driving down the road and Morgan Wallen came on. The song I Got Better, which I've heard 1,000 times. And I looked down at my dashboard and I said to myself, why is Shia LaBeouf on my dashboard? And you want to hear the very next lyrics that came on the song? Wasn't no telling who I'd turn into. And well, if you're new here, I'm going to show you some things that might just blow your mind. And if you've been here before, well, you know what's coming. Now, like I already showed you, Dale Earnhardt faked his death and is now Morgan Wallen. But when I first did this, I thought they were people and they were using med beds and things like that. But they're not people. They're not people at all. There's something else entirely. It kind of looks like an angel wing coming off his shoulder, doesn't it? You see, if you're an angel and you're damned to be stuck in Earth for eternity, well, you might do your best to blend in. And well, if you're living endlessly, then you might stick out like a sore thumb. So sometimes they fake their deaths. But they always leave little clues behind, like how he hit a wall and his name is Wallen. And what did Dale do? He drove in circles. See that? Morgan, it's a Welsh name, and it can mean great circle. And in my humble opinion and in my research, they can make themselves appear differently. But some things always stick, like scars, because scars are damaged tissue, and you can't change damaged tissues. And nice butt chins. So when I saw Morgan driving in my Jeep and I saw Shia LaBeouf, and then the very next line was, I turned myself into. Well, I knew what I'd find. Nice butt chin. And nice facial symmetry. Watch how the eyes in the perfect place. And like I said, they can shift, but some things always remain. Do you think maybe that the first place I went was to see if he had that scar right there, which I knew was both on Morgan Wallen and Dale Earnhardt? And would you look at that? A big old gouge right in the exact same location in relation to the eye. So much so you can even line them up perfectly with the eye as well. And I already knew what I knew, but I knew some of you were skeptical, so I continued my hunt and I found the next most very obvious mark. A mark right on his eye, and I thought to myself, boy, I wonder if Morgan would have that in the exact same spot. Even the facial lines line up. And well, like I said earlier, if you're new here, you might be saying, so what? So they have a similar scar and a similar birthmark and their faces match perfectly. What does this really prove? Well, you know what I also said is they always love to tell us. And I also said they're angels. They can shapeshift, just like the Bible talks about. They can take on human form. And in my opinion, they're damned. They're stuck here for disobeying God when they were supposed to watch over humanity, also rebelling against God for being prideful and wanting to be worshipped. And the Bible specifically references how a third of the angels rebelled and fell. And well, a third is 0.33. 0.33. Well, do you remember the song that started it all off? It was I Got Better. And I went to go get a clip from I Got Better, and I noticed something. It was 3 minutes and 33 seconds.
Coincidence.
Have you ever heard of Castle Huska? This was allegedly built on the gate of hell.
Oh,
yeah.
For real?
So I think back in 1800 AD. So this is way longer. This is AD.
Where is this? Where is it?
I don't know. I don't know where this is.
Yeah.
And they're saying that when it was built, a bunch of demons were released from that hole.
Yeah, yeah.
Right? And so when construction workers, when it was under construction, they were saying to the prisoners in the village, okay, for anyone who wants to go down and investigate the hole, we'll give them a pass. So I'll get out of jail free card.
Oh, because they're too scared. Yeah. They're too scared to check that shit out, bro.
No one wanted to go down except for one person. So when they put that person down in the hole, as soon as they lowered him, he screamed like crazy.
Oh.
They pulled him out. He had gray hair right away. And when he pulled him out, he went insane. Like, he couldn't speak English no more.
Wait, he aged?
Yeah, he aged. He had gray hair when they pulled him out.
Yeah.
And he went mentally insane. He couldn't speak English. Like, everything was like crazy.
Yeah.
And the whole thing was like, after that, everyone fled from that hole. And the castle was built, but the castle was built with no windows because it wasn't meant for somebody to live in.
Dude, this picture, I've seen and heard so much about it and the theories around it and people mapping stuff out in it and circling it and showing that it's shown and dividing it in sections. It's crazy. Whoever designed this photo did a good job. Too much.
The Louisiana swamp creature that is known to hunt the bayou of New Orleans, and that is the rougarou. Now, the rougarou is a mythical creature that is half human, half beast, and it is extremely known in Cajun folklore, and it is said to live near the swampy areas in Louisiana, especially in New Orleans. The Rougarou is kind of like a wolf or a dog-like creature said to have the upper body of a wolf and the lower body of a human. And it is said to have dark charcoal fur with glowy red eyes and very sharp teeth, having some type of human-like features in the face but with a snout. And the Rougarou is said to emerge at night during the foggy darkness. Said throughout the day they're human, but at night that's when they shapeshift into these beasts. And rumor has it they seek out misbehaving children and to hunt down Catholics that does not follow the rules of Lent. And the Rougarou is said to be cursed or spellbound, to transform between human and animal forms. And this transformation can be triggered by specific events or action like a full moon, breaking moral codes, or it just simply getting dark outside. And some believe that a person can free a Rougarou from its curse by drawing blood from it. But there are ways to avoid being in danger from a Rougarou. Rumor
In October 1943,
Rougarou. Like a werewolf? I mean, she said an upper body dog, but a lower body of a human. That doesn't make any sense. That'd be crazy. I mean, no thank you.
the U.S. Navy allegedly attempted a radical experiment on a destroyer called the USS Eldridge to make it invisible to radar using an intense electromagnetic field. According to the legend, something went catastrophically wrong. Witnesses on nearby ships claimed the Eldridge didn't just vanish from radar. It vanished completely. A green fog enveloped the hull, and the ship disappeared from the harbor entirely. Moments later, it reportedly reappeared, hundreds of miles away in Norfolk, Virginia, before vanishing again and reappearing back in Philadelphia. When crew members were finally found, the stories turned darker. Some sailors were said to be fused into the metal hull itself, their bodies embedded in the steel. Others had gone insane. Some reportedly vanished into thin air, mid-conversation for the rest of their lives, only to reappear seconds later, disoriented and terrified. The Navy has always denied any such experiment took place. No official record of the USS Eldridge being in Philadelphia that day has ever been found, which, depending on who you ask, either debunks the whole story or proves the cover-up worked.
Yeah, there's genuinely something disturbing going on here. Bear with me, because there's a lot to unpack here. So Hayden Panettiere died on August 16th, 2026 at the age of 36. She was found unresponsive in a residence in Greenville, South Carolina. Emergency responders attempted to resuscitate, but she was pronounced dead at approximately 2:32 p.m. Reports from the 911 response indicate cardiac arrest and a suspected overdose. Panettiere has been very public about her history with alcohol and addiction, but we don't yet have a toxicology determination establishing exactly what caused her death. Then there's the Jay Shetty interview. This is where things become especially unsettling. In May of 2026, only about 3 months before her death, Panettiere appeared on the Jay Shetty On Purpose podcast. During the interview, she brought up an extremely disturbing episode from her late teens. Panettiere said that when she was 18, she had been invited onto a boat by a woman she trusted. Instead, Panettiere said that she was led downstairs into a small room. Inside was an undressed, extremely famous man. She said the woman essentially instructed her to get into the bed with him, and entering what she categorized as survival response. She escaped and ended up hiding elsewhere on the boat until she was able to get away. That's terrifying. When her memoir was released, Panettiere provided substantially more information. She identified the protector woman in question as Stella. Stella had become a trusted older friend who made her feel protected and looked after. The boat was a super yacht in France, and Panettiere described it as an environment populated by wealthy and famous people. And the man was described in the memoir as famous 30-something British singer-songwriter. And that omission is what sent the internet into detective mode. There's been several internet attempts to match the description to various British musicians. The biggest name to come out of this has been James Blunt. He fits the criteria and was pretty much at his height of famousness at the time, from the song that everybody knows. What's even stranger is that James Blunt comes out with a music video that releases showing himself on a boat with an individual behind him with a bag over their head. What the hell is that? There is definitely more going on here, so stay tuned as I keep you up to date on it.
Some things are known going up into the sky in Boston.
Men don't show that vulnerable side.
Because society doesn't feel sorry for the man. Society can feel sorry for a woman. Because really, nobody cares.
That's not true. You don't show it.
It's not
because in your mind it's like they don't care. That's not true.
I give you an example. A girl or a woman comes online and says, "I'm broke. I just lost everything." She can still find someone that can change that dynamic to some capacity in any type of way, right? If a dude says, "I'm broke, I done lost everything," instantly he lost all his value. If you can't provide or do nothing for the people that you come in contact with, you're meaningless as a man. That's what society has trained us to be. We have to be providers. We have to protect. So when you're saying men have to be selfish, that's the reason. When men have to get up and do it and they don't show it, that's the reason. Because nobody ain't gonna feel sorry for us. Nobody care about you and your feelings, nigga. When your family call on you, they don't care that you got a headache. They honestly don't care that you got a sickness. You the man of this house, and you gotta do something about it.
True.
What if we're the only ones? What if we are the aliens? Like way back, you remember the meteorite that crashed and killed all the dinosaurs, right? Yep. What if that was us that landed on the planet and took over ever since then? Because life can form on a meteorite, and it's been proven that that can happen.
So where do we come from?
What if we came from Mars, bro? Because there's even a theory out there that Mars used to be like Earth, and it could be habitable.
Wait, so you're telling me that we basically came in off of a meteorite and crash landed on the Earth?
Once we went from Mars, we came to Earth because Earth was the next best thing. And now that Earth is going to shit, now we're trying to look to get off of Earth.
Yeah, to go back to
that's
Mars.
why Elon is starting to plan things on different planets.
Yes.
Wait.
What?
They took the trees, fruit trees, they took the trees and sold us back the fruit. Then they took the water, rivers, rains, springs that fed civilizations for thousands of years, bottled it, and sold it back to us. They took the land that existed here long before any human drew lines around it. And they said, if you want to stand here, you better have a payment plan. Everything we need to exist, food, water, shelter, was already here. Nobody created it. But somehow you were born owing for it. Am I the only one this drives mad? I mean, why is a free life such a crazy idea? Why does simply existing without bills, debt, or permission sound like a fantasy? Why in the hell did we ever let anybody convince us that this is the way things were supposed to be?
Very true.
You're saying an asteroid took out the dinosaurs? How do you know? You weren't there. If you really want to know, you're going to have to strap in for this one. Okay, have you ever seen a splash? Like in water? Yeah, sure, who hasn't? Do you know how a splash works? I've never really thought about it before. Well, let's think about it. What happens when you jump in a pool? The water goes everywhere? Right, the water you hit gets pushed out of the way. Does the water stay there? No, it all goes back to where it was before I jumped in. Have you ever made such a big splash that it makes another upward splash when the water goes back? Yeah, anytime I do a cannonball. But what does that have to do with dinosaurs? Well, you asked how we know it was an asteroid that wiped them out. Do you know what happens when an asteroid hits a planet or a moon? Yeah, it leaves a crater. Right. It's kind of like the water that got pushed out of the way when you did your cannonball, only this is dirt and rock. Okay, but aren't there craters all over the place? How can you know which one it was? If an asteroid took out a whole planet of dinosaurs, it would have to be huge, right? So it probably would leave behind a huge crater. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, that huge crater is off the Yucatan Peninsula, known as the Chicxulub crater. That's a hard name to pronounce. Well, what makes this one different? The crater is enormous, but there's something extra special about it. Remember how your cannonballs made that extra splash in the middle? Yeah, they're devastating. That's what happened here. An asteroid the size of a small city hit with so much force it basically liquefied the ground. The return splash in the center eventually settled into an inner ring of mountains. Wait, so the asteroid literally made a splash on the ground? Yes, literally. That's insane. Okay, but wouldn't it just kill off the dinosaurs that got squished underneath it? Yeah, at first. But with the splash kicked up into the atmosphere, it affected the whole planet. Like what? First, it made things insanely hot. Melted rock got shot into the sky, and then rained back down, creating intense heat and massive fires. How do you know that? I'll get there. Next, it got dark. Dust, smoke, and tiny droplets of sulfur filled the sky and blocked out the sun. This darkness lasted for years. Darkness for years? Sounds like my last marriage. So Randy, if there's no sunlight, what do you think happens to the plants? They can't eat, so they die. And what happens to the animals who eat those plants? They die too. And what about the animals who eat those animals? Dead. So no sunlight means no plants, which means no plant eaters, which means no meat eaters. That's how all non-avian dinosaurs died. So it wasn't the asteroid that actually killed them? It was the asteroid that set off a chain of events that killed them. But the question is, how do you know this happened? Remember how I said the asteroid shot a bunch of stuff into the sky and it rained down all over the planet? Yeah. Well, there's evidence of this. The ground has layers of sediment, which you can clearly see on mountainsides. So the stuff that shot up into the sky fell back down and made a layer? Yes, Randy. And we see that layer between rocks with dinosaur fossils and rocks without them. That layer is when an extinction event happened that wiped out 75% of species. But how do you know it was from that one asteroid? Good question. A metal called iridium is rare on Earth, but there's a lot of it in asteroids. Seeing that in the layer was a big clue. Well, it could have been other asteroids. There's also tiny glass beads in that layer, which have the exact same chemical fingerprint of the rock from the Yucatan, and can only form under shock pressures from impacts or nuclear blasts. I'm guessing the dinosaurs didn't have a nuclear program. Nope. And other minerals like shocked quartz and silica polymorphs just add to the evidence. Wow. So that's how you can tell without being there? Yeah. Like if I saw the ground was wet but no one was in the pool, I'd probably guess someone jumped in. Yeah, but you didn't see anyone jump in. You're right, but the thing is, evidence still exists even after all the eyewitnesses are dead.
Very interesting. Never really thought about it. I was never really, I figured dinosaurs died if they existed, but it never was really explained that way. That's a weird but good way of explaining it, I guess. Yeah. Well, guys, we've reached the end. Thank you for making it through with me and dealing with my chit chat and my constant talking. I tried to back off a little bit at the end there. Sorry about Sheriff and Chief Cheeto. Didn't mean for them to jump up on camera there. And please, if you liked what you saw, please like and subscribe. And if you could, hype the video. I'm trying to get monetized. It'd be so cool if I could get there in the next 6 months. That'd be awesome. It would be, God, that'd be great. It would be. I would really appreciate it. I would. So, like I said, man, like and subscribe. Hype it. Let's try to get me monetized. Then we can move on to bigger and better. You know what I'm saying? And there's Sheriff. Guess this is time to stop. I'll talk to you guys later. See you in the next one. Bye.